The Trump administration opening a new channel in its immigration crackdown.
Return now to President Trump's latest attacks on Somali immigrants in Minnesota.
U.S. President Donald Trump has added more fuel to the fire.
Pandemic relief fraud in the state of Minnesota having massive repercussions for that state's Somali community.
At 5:18 a.m., while Minneapolis slept under a frozen November sky, federal agents were preparing to kick in the door of what looked like a harmless community office. No guards, no weapons, just a peeling sign that read Somali Cultural Liaison Office, Honorary Consulate. For nearly a decade, families walked through that door looking for hope. Minutes later, armed FBI and ICE teams would walk through the same entrance and uncover one of the most disturbing human trafficking operations ever hidden in plain sight. What they found inside would expose a global supply chain built on lies, charity, and stolen children, stretching from Minnesota to Mexico, across the Pacific, and deep into China. The breach was fast and violent. The front door splintered inward as agents flooded the building. On the second floor, Ahmed Khalif Hassan, the man everyone knew as a respected honorary consul, was already panicking. He wasn't calling the State Department. He wasn't calling a lawyer. He was on a satellite phone speaking urgently to a Los Zetas cartel lieutenant in Tijuana. When agents burst into the room, Ahmed didn't reach for a weapon. He lunged for his laptop, desperately trying to close an encrypted chat window. He never made it. As agents tackled him to the floor, one final message remained glowing on the screen. Shipment 47 cleared Tijuana, 34 units, China buyers waiting. Ahmed screamed about diplomatic immunity, about international law, about war. No one listened. In the basement, another team made a discovery that would haunt everyone present. Behind a steel door secured with a heavy padlock was not a storage room. It was a den. Filthy mattresses lined the floor. The lights barely worked. Inside, huddled in silence, were 238 children, some as young as 6 years old, malnourished, terrified, motionless. They had been told they were waiting for school paperwork. In reality, they were inventory. And on the wall above them was a map with a photograph pinned to it. A Mexican mayor named Roberto Delgado, a red X drawn across his face, beneath it a date, written in Ahmed's own handwriting. For 9 years, Ahmed Khalif Hassan was untouchable. He attended refugee conferences, he advised city councils, he appeared in photos shaking hands with politicians and non-profit leaders. His office processed visas, family reunifications, and humanitarian cases for thousands of Somali refugees in the Twin Cities.
City and state lawmakers are going to demand that the FBI cooperate with Minnesota's.
Minneapolis has one of the largest Somali populations in the United States, and Ahmed positioned himself as the bridge between worlds. No one questioned him, no one checked his credentials. They didn't know that the consulate was a complete fabrication. The Somali government had never appointed him. The State Department had no record of him. His authority existed only because people believed it did. Behind the scenes, Ahmed used that belief to build a machine of exploitation. His office was legally registered not as a diplomatic mission, but as a 501c3 nonprofit, a charity. Over the years, it received millions in federal grants meant to help refugees. Ahmed claimed he was reuniting families. In reality, he was systematically tearing them apart. The operation followed a chillingly simple pattern. Ahmed's recruiters operated in Somalia and Ethiopia, targeting desperate families in war-torn regions. Parents were promised that their children would receive an American education, a future, safety. Families sold land, livestock, everything they owned to pay the processing fees. The children traveled legally to Minneapolis on valid visas. Once they arrived, they were taken to the consulate building and held in the basement for weeks. Then, under cover of darkness, they were handed over to Los Zetas operative. Then, from Minnesota, the children were moved south across the U.S. border into Mexico. From there, they were loaded onto cargo ships in Baja California and shipped across the Pacific to manufacturing hubs in China, Guangdong, Fujian, places where forced labor disappears into global supply chain. Each child sold for roughly $15,000. Over time, the operation generated an estimated $680 million. It was slavery, industrialized. The empire began to crack not through advanced surveillance, but through a single phone call. In July 2025, a Minneapolis social worker named Lisa Chen received an unexpected international call. The voice on the line was whispering. It belonged to a 12-year-old boy named Omar. He told her he had escaped a factory in Beijing. He said he was Somali. He said he had been taken to Minnesota first, and he said the man responsible called himself a diplomat. Lisa contacted the FBI immediately. At first, agents were skeptical. The story sounded impossible. A fake diplomat trafficking children from Minneapolis to China? But Special Agent David Martinez decided to check one thing. He searched State Department records for Somali consulates in Minnesota. The result was a blank page. No consulate existed. No Ahmed Khalif Hassan had diplomatic credentials. That single discovery changed everything. Martinez opened a full investigation, coordinating with ICE and the State Department. again. What emerged was a terrifying pattern. Between 2015 and 2025, Ahmed's office processed 2,847 individuals for resettlement. When agents tried to locate them, 2019 people were missing. No school records, no social security numbers, no addresses. They had vanished.
Are now being arrested in a targeted immigration operation. The US Department of Homeland Security confirmed the arrests late last night. 12 people were picked up in Minneapolis.
Surveillance was authorized, phones were tapped, undercover agents were embedded near the consulate, and in October the case escalated from trafficking to murder. Agents intercepted a message from Ahmed to a Los Zetas lieutenant. A mayor in Mexico was asking questions about the trafficking routes.
Today, the city with the nation's largest Somali population is on edge as the Trump administration vows to expand its immigration enforcement. The president yesterday broadly criticized Somali immigrants.
He had contacted the FBI. Ahmed wrote one sentence: he needs to be eliminated. The response was immediate. Understood. 6 days later, Mayor Roberto Delgado was assassinated outside his home. The FBI had heard enough. They moved to arrest. But Ahmed was only the recruitment arm. Data recovered from his laptop revealed something worse. The transportation hub of the operation was run by a prestigious humanitarian organization called the New Dawn Foundation. Its leaders, Dr. Hassan Osman and his wife Amina, were international celebrities. UN medals, media praise. Their flagship asset was a 380-foot mega yacht named Hope's Promise, officially registered as a floating hospital. In reality, it was a prison. On December 14th, 2025, US Coast Guard cutters surrounded the yacht off the coast of San Diego. FBI and DHS teams boarded simultaneously. The crew surrendered without resistance. Agents bypassed the luxury suites and headed below deck. Behind a steel door secured with a keypad, they found 450 children crammed into cargo holds meant for equipment, sedated, starving. From Somalia, Guatemala, Syria, and Ethiopia, Dr. Osman calmly told agents, "We gave them purpose." The response was immediate. "You gave them chains." The trials moved fast.
Well, first consider that 80,000 Somali Americans call Minnesota home. Soon upwards of 100 ICE agents could be targeting them.
Ahmed Khalif Hassan was convicted on 847 counts and sentenced to life without parole, plus 3,000 years. Dr. Osman and his wife received life sentences as well. Forensic accountants uncovered $1.1 billion in stolen assets. The money was seized for victim support, but one number overshadowed everything. Records showed the network had trafficked over 11,000 children in 18 years. Only 740 were recovered. More than 10,000 are still missing. This case shattered a dangerous illusion. The idea that evil always announces itself, that it always looks violent, loud, or chaotic. In reality, the most effective trafficking networks don't operate in shadows. They operate in daylight. They register as charities. They hold conferences. They take photos with officials. They learn the language of compassion and use it as camouflage. For nearly 2 decades, this network didn't rely on force at the beginning. It relied on trust. Trust from parents who believed their children were being given a future. Trust from governments that assumed paperwork meant legitimacy. Trust from donors who believed their money was saving lives. Every layer of that trust was weaponized, and because no one wanted to appear suspicious of a humanitarian effort, no one asked the simplest questions. Who appointed you? Where are the children now? Why does no one ever see the outcome? The sentencing of Ahmed Khalif Hassan and the Osmans brought legal closure, but it did not bring moral resolution. Life sentences cannot return childhoods, asset seizures cannot erase years of forced labor, fear, and silence. And courtrooms cannot answer the question that still hangs in the air. How did this operate for so long without being challenged? The failure wasn't just criminal, it was systemic. More than 10,000 children are still missing. Some are now adults who will never be found in any database. Some are still trapped in factories, warehouses, or labor camps right now. Their names were reduced to shipment numbers, their lives absorbed into global supply chains that consumers never see and corporations rarely question. The rescue of 740 children was a victory, but it also exposed the scale of what remains undone. This investigation forces an uncomfortable reckoning. Good reputations are not proof of good intention. Diplomatic language is not legitimacy, and charity without transparency can become one of the most powerful tools for exploitation. If an organization demands trust but resists scrutiny, that is not compassion. It is a warning sign. The story doesn't end with arrests or headlines, it ends or continues with vigilance, with asking questions that feel uncomfortable, with refusing to assume that appearance equals truth. Because somewhere tonight, a parent still believes a promise. Somewhere a child is still waiting to be processed, and somewhere another polished office door is waiting to be opened. The search is ongoing, the network may be broken, but the system that allowed it to exist remains. And until that changes, the next investigation is already in motion.